parents for coming as well. I appreciate it, as well as my parents in HSG. So tonight we're talking about mindset. And it's important, I've been researching this for the last maybe year and a half on mindset, and it's actually been taught to a lot of companies right now. Seminars to companies, to top CEOs, to even now in the education system to teachers about mindset of students. Everyone knows we're living in a new age. You know, the kids these days have a different, I would reference the mindset. And two very important mindsets that we're going to talk about today is a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And even as parents, as educators, whatever profession or job that you're working at, we still, as human beings, we're still in a fixed mindset on a lot of things that we believe in. So tonight is going to be, pretty much, we're going to talk about ways to get out of that fixed mindset. And one of the first things I want to ask, and anyone, please raise your hand or just go ahead and shout it out. Just a quick question before we start is, why do some people, kids, us, and general adults, why do some people reach their full potential while others of equal talent do not? So I ask again, why do some people reach their full potential while others of equal talent do not?
Say opportunity.
Opportunity. Upbringing has a lot to do with it. Environment. So success. We all define success differently. It can be, getting a high school diploma and going ahead and get a 9-to-5 job. It can be meaning being a stay-at-home mom and being great at raising your kids. So many different meanings of success. But as far as that question I just asked, in terms of success, it directly relates to beliefs about intelligence and talent. And that pretty much sums up, what we're going to be talking about on our students and what their mindsets are. And it's as simple as just walking into EPAT every day. What type of mindset do they have walking in? Is it the mindset of, oh, I have to do tutoring for 2 hours, I have to be here, to do tennis and fitness? Or is it, what? Yes, I'm here, I'm enjoying it here. It's not where I want to be every single day, but I want to have an open mind about it. So that's what we're trying to get the students to, not only just about EPAT, about chores at home, about sports, about everything in life, just having an open mind to pushing themselves and taking themselves out of their comfort zone of doing stuff that we've been brought up to do. And like I said, like you referenced, just growing up, I have a fixed mindset about a lot of stuff that, that I still do, that I'm working on to turn that into a growth mindset. So moving on, the definition of mindset is a mental attitude. It can be positive or negative, and it pretty much determines how you interpret and how you respond to situations. That's pretty much what mindset means, as well as your own beliefs. So my mindset about EPAT and tutoring would be, all right, every student here, our number one objective is to get them prepared for life. And then under that umbrella, school, the life skills, and all the other things that we try to help teach them and motivate them to do. So that's my mindset about EPAT. Some kids' mindset about EPAT would be, I just go there for 2 to 4 hours, 2 days a week, just to get my homework done. So we want to get them out of that mindset that this is just tutorial, or this is where my mom's sending me. Because I know all the kids enjoy being here, but I interact with them every day, and some of them are tired. They go through a lot, especially the high school kids as far as their scheduling, growing up, the different stuff that go on at home that we don't know about that's affecting them. So it's important that they understand mindset has a lot to do with it. First mindset that I'll talk about is the fixed mindset. Fixed mindset is pretty much that the belief that their traits are given, that they have a certain amount of brains and talent, and nothing can change that. And that references, for example, with me, I only thought I was good in one subject. Just like with certain kids here, they're only good in, or they feel they're only good in math and science, and they may struggle in, let's say, writing or English. But they don't understand, just like when I was their age, that in order to get better at anything, you have to put in the time and the effort, right? And the fixed mindset, and we'll go over the packet that I sent out, the fixed mindset talks about how we continuously hear that voice that's saying, you know what, just shut it down, it's too hard. Or because of your pride or your ego, you don't want people to think that you're going to fail or feel like you're going to fail. So it's important that we start teaching our students and our kids that It's all about development and not just being stuck on, I'm only good at this. Being a well-rounded individual and student is more important than just having your student focus in on one thing, because everything is important, from the English, math, science, Spanish, the whole range. The second part of mindset, growth mindset, and this is just a definition, students tend to see their qualities as things that can be developed through their dedication and effort. I'm big on challenging myself. And a quick story about me, I had a fixed mindset about swimming. I didn't know how to swim. I didn't grow up around that whole environment of swimming. Even up until I got into college, I was telling the students, because some of them had the fixed mindset about certain things, and I shared my story of swimming. I was terrified. I didn't want to learn. I didn't care. No one can tell me. And then I finally realized, hey, you know what? Tackle this challenge. I'm competitive in everything else, but when it came to this, that moment, I just something that I never really liked. So in order for me to get my degree, I had to pass the swimming class. So I was terrified. I tried to talk to the professor. There was no way out of it. So at the end of the day, she helped me tremendously. Got me over my fears, got me over my disbelief, my confidence in myself, and taking on this challenge that I never thought I could do. And I succeeded. Am I the best swimmer? No. But I eventually had to open up my mind. And back then, I wasn't learning about growth mindset or fixed mindset, but that was the mentality that I had approaching that specific skill or area. So with our students, for students who are struggling in physics or math, we have to continue to encourage them because they're going to be subjects that they love, that they're passionate about. But like as Dave always says, you're only as strong as your weakest subject or specific skill. So my weakness was swimming, and that mentality was giving up or saying I can't do it. So once I got over that hurdle, I'm able to tackle any challenge and try new things. So that's what we're trying to go with our students. And then real quickly, if you can go to this packet, mine is blue, but it should be white with the two people in front. It has a dialogue between a fixed mindset and growth mindset. On the left, we're going to quickly go over what students with a fixed mindset usually talk about or think about. When it comes to challenges, they avoid them. And it's little things too, little challenges that they avoid. Obstacles, they usually give up easily. They don't want to be outgoing and try it. The effort is, they see it as fruitless or worthless. They don't see a point to it. And then as far as responding to criticism, they respond regular negative, or they don't accept it at all. So we're trying to change that for them to learn from that criticism, especially it's coming from us. And then the success of others. Oftentimes they feel threatened by the success of others. So we want to try to, at the end of this presentation, we can talk about ways on how we can change that. And as a result of all those feelings of having a fixed mindset, students usually plateau early and achieve less than their full potential, because that's just been in that same bubble. And then it's just like, I can relate it to my family. A lot of my family growing up was the belief that after high school, that was it. So I was the first in my family to go to college. And that mindset of my family was, after you go to high school, you go right into the workforce. You don't think about higher education. You just either high school and that's it. So I was programmed that way, and it wasn't my fault, but it was just the environment that I was around. It wasn't until I got deep into being at EPAT that I said, you know what, it's life outside of East Palo Alto. There's much more things going on, more opportunities going on. So I had to open up, and being around Keisha and Dave and everyone here that supported me, I was able to see there's nothing wrong with college. And even my friends that went to the same schools as me and we grew up together, they still have a fixed mindset about school, whether you like it or not. Did I like all my classes? No. Was it a pain in the neck going to, being in college and being in high school? Yes. I accepted all that at that time, but I wouldn't be where I'm at if I didn't go through that period. Like you guys all know, whether it's working, staying at home, whatever you do, you have to crawl before you walk. And so many students today is just looking for that instant gratification. And instant gratification is the now. They're looking for now. They want results now versus it's a process. You don't become the CEO of a company in a year or 2 years. If you know someone, yeah. But for most of us, we have to work 10, 15 years to get a promotion. So for the students here, we're trying to teach them work ethic, We're teaching them when they turn 18 and when they leave EPAT and they graduate from high school, it's important that they learn those life skills that we taught them, that you guys taught them. That's more important than the grades. And my personal belief, you don't have to agree, my personal belief on grades is it's a mirror of work ethic. That's what I think it is. Because you can try your hardest, and I try my hardest not to compare kids, but some kids are gifted and talented in certain subjects, and some don't have to work to get that A. But then there's other kids who have to struggle and work their tail off just to get a C. You know, and for them, that may be their best. So as a parent, and when I go on to the other slides, I want to definitely talk about how we talk to our students and get out of the way of just saying, you need to get a 4.0. All right? It's good to set those expectations, but it's also good to have realistic expectations, especially if they're trying hard. If they're goofing off and they're not trying hard, that grade is going to reflect that. You know, so that's something that I'll bring up again. So fixed mindset. Went over pretty much the definitions and all that. Steps to improve the fixed mindset. And this is, you're going to turn to the back of that first page. So this first sheet is directly in the back. We're going to move over to steps to improve the fixed mindset. And step number 1 is learning to hear your fixed mindset voice. And realistically, it's hard to really put yourself in that position and say, all right, what is my fixed mindset saying? But this is more for you guys to reference on how our kids are thinking. What are they thinking about when they're scared to tackle that challenge, or scared or afraid to go to this new thing that they're not exposed to? So taking them out their comfort zone, this is something that they may be thinking about. As they approach new challenges, that voice might say, are you sure you can do it? Maybe you don't have the talent. What if? What if you fail? You'll be a failure. People will laugh at you for thinking you had talent. So those are some of the things that they may think about. As they hit a setback, the voice might say something like, you know, this would have been a snap if you just had the talent. Or for example, like for me, never knew how to, wasn't talented in drawing, in art. So I was always envious and upset that people were so talented at drawing. But it also takes a lot of dedication. You know, some people are given that God-given talent, but also they also work to develop that talent as well. So also as they face criticism, they might say to themselves, it's not their fault, it was someone else's fault. And I get that a lot with my high school students. It's always the teacher's fault. Always the teacher's fault. So we want to start keeping them and having them responsible for themselves and their own actions moving forward when thinking about having a fixed mindset. Moving on to step 2. Recognizing that you have a choice. So each student has a choice on how to interpret setbacks, challenges, and criticism. They have the power, ultimately, just like we do. And some of the stuff that I still have a fixed mindset about, I have the power to change that. So once they understand what that voice is and they can change that, then they can make those changes into having a growth mindset and thinking outside the norm. Moving on to step 3. Is talking back to your fixed mindset with a growth mindset voice, especially when facing a challenge. And again, keep in mind this is just examples of what a student may think. So step 3, let's see, talk back. So if you turn the page over to the growth mindset, so it's the next page, talking about growth mindset, the answers to the fixed mindset. So a person would say, I'm not sure I can do it now, but I think I can learn from it from time and effort. And that's the key point, effort. A lot of our students, like I said, the instant gratification, they want to see it happen overnight. They want to see an F go to an A in a matter of 2 weeks. It doesn't happen like that. They want to see a C go to a B in a week. It doesn't happen like that. And us as parents and supporters, we have to make sure we constantly give them praise. We constantly got to keep pushing them as well. You know, telling them that it's okay, you know, whether if they failed on something or not, yeah, get on them. But also in that same breath, let them know, like, you know what, you can do it next time. So it's important that they hear those words, because if they always hear, I'm disappointed, or you can do better, you know, and I'm trying to make a conscious effort myself, then they're only programmed to listen to the disappointment, that look on your face. You know, so keep in mind when we're talking to our students, how you're approaching when they do something good and bad, not just when they're doing bad. Another thing, an example of a fixed mindset, from the last page, something sort of, this would have been a snap, this have been a snap if you really had talent. The growth mindset would say, you know, this is so wrong. Basketball, for example, wasn't easy for Michael Jordan, or science wasn't easy for Thomas Edison, but they had passion for it. And with that passion, they put tons of effort. So moving on to taking the growth mindset action. And I'll move the slide to growth mindset and having that action. So over time, the voice you give becomes your choice. Therefore, it is crucial to continuously utilize your sense of agency and decide to take on those challenges. Also, to learn from the setbacks and try again. So when the students are coming in, and I know everything here, you know, as far as grades, we talk about results. It's important that we give them feedback. You know, like I just said about, it's a marathon and not a sprint. So let them know there's always time to make improvement, rather than jumping down throats and saying, hey, you know what, you did miserable, I know you can do better, because that's all they remember. So keep in mind when we're talking to our students. Moving on to the growth mindset and having an open mind. Those who believe that their abilities and intelligence can be developed through effort and practice have that mindset. So the key words here is effort and development, through effort and practice. Homework, for example, you know, a lot of the reason why our students don't do too well on tests is because we're focusing on, or the students is focusing on just completing the assignments. And that's why at EPAT we made that switch on to doing more test prep, making sure they have those basic skills, so when the test comes, they're prepared and they actually can understand the concepts, versus just doing the homework, and the homework grade may be an A, but then when they take the test and you see their test grade, it's a D or an F or a C minus. So it's important that the students understand that it takes practice and effort to develop those skills. Yes, sir?
Can I add something?
Of course.
Real quick? I truly believe effort equals results, right? The more you put into it, the more results you're going to get out of it. What he's actually speaking about here is more, the actual goal of homework is not just to do homework and get homework done and to turn in homework. The goal of homework is to learn the material. And if you learn the material, then our kids will do better on tests. But what's happening is our kids are just trying to do homework to get it done because they want to go to sleep, or you think, oh, did you do your homework at EPAT, or did you turn in your homework? Turning in homework does not equate to learning the material, right? And you have to develop the mindset and teach your kids that homework is just a part of practice, right? And you got to keep doing that. Homework is actually the bare bones minimum. If you really think about homework, when someone gives you a homework assignment, that's the bare bones minimum. So it's how much extra homework and how much extra practice you're doing. That is when the kids start learning the material and mastering the material. A kid saying, I don't have any homework, especially in a high school age kids, that word doesn't exist. Just because the teacher did not assign homework doesn't mean you don't have homework to do. Because if you don't have all A's, if you don't understand the material, you have homework to do, right? So effort equals results, and it's just not doing homework, it's doing it and learning the material, then the grades happen.
Thank you, Dave. So also with that open mind and having that growth mindset, challenges are motivating rather than intimidating. Students usually persevere in the face of adversity and setbacks. Numerous students who definitely this last semester didn't do as well, but I'm trying to let them know that, you know, it's all right, put it behind you, let's keep moving forward. And then some of them, they're struggling still. They're still thinking about last semester, especially for my first time freshmen. But some, you know, it's a learning experience for them, and hopefully they can develop over that, but it's important that we also reinforce that. All right, dwelling on what happened 4 or 5 months ago as far as in terms of grades won't change what's going on today. So that's something that we keep in mind when we're talking to our students and delivering that growth mindset voice and trying to encourage them. Like Dave said, understanding that the effort is a pathway to not just understanding, but also mastering or being successful at a certain skill. students, or even us, you know, with growth mindsets, we learn from criticism. We don't just take it in, we're like, oh, okay, this person thinks this of me, I don't need to change. It's actually good to hear what other people have to say about you. Hopefully it's good constructive criticism. And then the students, I definitely give back positive feedback so they can take it and develop from it. As a result of all this, students tend to reach higher levels of achievement. Moving on to extra tips. And if you can turn to the last page of the handout that I gave you, is tip number 1, talking about promoting effort in learning. And one of the extra tips I would like to include in this presentation is try not to use labels, you know, smart and dumb, because that conveys intelligent as a fixed ability. You got an A on it, oh, because you're so smart. And even as a parent of a preschool student, I'm working on that with my student, because if their student is only hearing, I'm smart, I'm smart, I'm smart, and then they go and don't do as well on another subject, well, my mom, my parents, EPAD, whoever said I was smart, 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 smart. Why isn't this coming easy, right? So we want to promote the effort behind being smart. So it's just another wording of congratulating your students or letting them know, like, look, yeah, you got the A, but you did it because you worked hard. That's more important. So one of the tips, for example, for skill, lots of effort, instead of saying, wow, you make it look easy, you can try and say, you know, your practice, the effort that you put in, those long nights that you stand up, is paying off. And like I said, if it's a C and they trying their hardest, and parents, you know them best as far as when they're away from EPAT, if you see them working their butt off and they come in with a C or a B, let them know, hey, look, it's not what you wanted or our expectation at that given time or our goal, but I see you working. Because that's more encouraging for a student than saying, oh, you spend 2 or 3 hours studying, what have you been doing, if they brought on the C? Because sometimes that's the highest they may be able to achieve. So recognize that, number 1, try not to compare students to someone else that you may know. More importantly, every student is different. Another skill and tip, adjusting to strategies. For example, instead of saying you keep making mistakes or would you make your mind up and get this done, try saying something on the lines of, I really like how you learn from your mistakes. I like how you kept trying new ways to get there. You know, good job. It doesn't have to be specifically like that. You can put your own spin to it, but just that constant reinforcement of not just praise, but encouragement. You know, that's the most important thing students need to hear, because like I said, they're going through a lot, pressure, their own pressure, pressure from us, pressure from at home, pressure to do well and everything. So it's important that we continue to support them. Seeking help. So instead of saying you need to learn how to do this by yourself, instead of saying that, you can say something on the lines of, you tried hard, then you ask your sister or me or your other parent for help. You know, great job. You know, be independent. Go ask for help. Then moving on down to tip number 2, feeding the brain. I think this is very, very, very important. And it talks about, number 1, food. The brain is the biggest burner of calories in your body. It burns about 1/3 of the food in your body that your body uses. Eggs, nuts, fish are some of the best brain foods. So for example, and I'll touch on this on my last slide, is the continue having the students eat healthy and the junk food, and I know it's tougher because it's more expensive, but reinforcing good behavior. You know, here at EPAT, I think we're doing an awesome job of reinforcing eating healthy. So being on the same page in my next slide I'll talk about, it's important that we're reinforcing that back at home, because it all goes back to how they're learning as well. And then sleep. The teen and preteen needs 8 or 9 hours of sleep each day to run well. When youth don't get enough sleep, they have trouble remembering and learning things. In fact, studies show that test scores are 1/3 lower for tired youth compared to rested ones. And this is a prime example of me when I was at Pinewood in middle school. Stayed up all night studying. Knew I had it, but sometimes only got 4 or 5 hours of sleep. Now, I can kind of disagree with 8 or 9 hours, because sometimes in college the kids will not get that much sleep, and even in high school. But on a consistent basis, try to make sure the students are resting. And even on the weekends, if they have to get that rest, make sure that they're getting proper rest, because a lot of them, they work so hard in the beginning of the semester, and then when finals come, they crash. because consistently over time, they're not taking care of themselves. So it's important that we make sure that the students are getting rest and a proper sleep. Moving on to exercise. The brain works better when the body gets regular exercise. With exercise, the brain actually grows new cells and learns more easily. Challenges. When the brain is challenged, it builds thicker connections between brain cells it just used. The thicker the connections, the faster and easier it is to do a task. Also, a part of my extra tips, I want to point out that we need to start putting our students and taking them, out of their comfort zones. You know, whether it's at home, they're used to doing one way, challenge it up, switch it up, make them do it a different way. Because it's important that they learn to be well-rounded. Because it helps them grow and improve. So, and the last thing is just focus. Tip number 3, it is hard for the brain when different kinds of information enter at the same time. The brain will have more trouble saving and finding information later. Support your youth to avoid texting and watching TV, especially while doing homework. One thing I want to touch on is definitely the policy here. Most of the students here come 2 days a week, some come 3 and 4. But for the ones that come here 2 days, what I teach them and what I try to let them know is you have to work outside of EPAC. You can't just show up here, work your butt off for 4 hours on Tuesday and Thursday or Monday and Wednesday, and then those other 5 days you're not working. It's more important that you develop those work habits here, and then so you're able to go home and develop those work habits. Because our whole goal, at EPAC is to develop after those life skills and when they graduate from high school. So that's one of our goals and our things that we're trying to teach the students is the work habits and the work ethic going further. So if they're just going to come here and work their butt off here, but then at home they're watching TV, texting, trying to do their homework, that's not conducive to learning. That's not going to allow them to pick up those good habits that we're trying to develop, because it's going to be a constant tug each week when they come from Sunday night, and we have to kind of get them back in order. So that segues right into my last slide, is the importance of partnering with schools and EPAC, which I'm sure everyone is doing a great job of already, but I just wanted to bring this up to reinforce how important it is that we're all on the same page. Our partnership between the parents and the staff here, as well as with the school, is very, very important. It reinforces consistency. If, let's say, Andrew goes home, he heard one thing from me, and that same question or concern is brought up to mom or to school, and we're all on 3 different pages, but think about what that student is hearing. Every time, if I don't have an answer to what they said they parent, I usually send out a text, or I'll call the parent, or ask that parent when they come and sign up, hey, did so-and-so say this, or say this? Because it's important that we're all on the same page when delivering certain messages to our students. At the end of the day, no matter what, you have the ultimate influence over your child. And that goes back to what we're trying to focus in and build those good work habits here. That can be all thrown out the window if we're not practicing the same stuff here at home, recreating this scenario. So on the days that they're not here, try to recreate this scenario at EPAC. Put it whether it's in their room, taking the plug out their TV, taking their phones, because that's not allowed here. Music isn't allowed. I know some students listen to music. I don't necessarily agree with it, because on a test you can't have music. At work you can't have music. So my whole thing is recreate those scenarios at home. So when they hear, when they're, is developing those habits over years. So then when they get to college, when they get to, whether they go to a trade school, vocational, if they go to just a regular career or a job, they have those habits already ingrained. So that's our end goal and our result of what we're trying to build here at EPAC. Finally, some of the phrases used in EPAC, more specifically at HSG, no excuses. I'm big on my group on for students who don't bring books, for students who, oh, my teacher, I forgot to write it down because I left my planner. I'm big on no excuses, and the students in all my group, I point them right to, I have a poster on the wall that talks about no excuses, so all my students know. So I just want you guys aware of the no excuses policy that I talk about in HSG. Also, sense of urgency. A lot of our students walk around, whether they're taking a break, whether they're going to the tennis court, whether they're going from one subject to the next, simple as just transitioning. They take their time. You know, we want to build that sense of urgency. Time is ticking. You know, especially in the sense of there's only 24 hours in a day. They've been up all day. You know, it's important that we try to teach our students to stop procrastinating. You know, it's a skill that we have to develop. Waiting to the last minute to do things. There's students, even in my group, that I get on them every Monday or Tuesday about, especially this week, they had Monday off, but now they're doing homework that's due Wednesday, when in fact, they could have done a little bit on Friday, could have did a little bit on Saturday, Sunday, you know, so we're trying to get them out those habits, so it's important that we convey those same messages and be tough on them. So the last thing, and this is something that me and Dave and Keisha, we hammer on, is the sacrifice. You know, what are you know, we know what you sacrificed, you know, every day to make sure your house is running, you know, but they don't understand that. You know, they don't understand how hard you guys work, whether it's just staying at home and making sure that the house is running smoothly for your spouse, or if you're a single parent, they don't know how hard it is to make that dollar or to understand what you sacrificed in the past to get them to where they are today. So you need to you need to tell them what you've been through. You know, if not you, someone in your family, or bring up a story of, you know, my situation or someone that you know who sacrificed, because I think it's important for the students to understand where all this came from, why they're in this position, because we have over 30, 40 other students that are dying to get in our programs yearly. And for them to not appreciate, in the simple thing we're saying, sacrifice, for example, my high school students, I tell them, listen, sometimes you gotta sacrifice that weekend out with your cousins. You know, stay in and get that work done, because at the end of the day, when you're on that test, you're taking that test, that weekend's gonna replay. You're like, oh, I should have done this when I had the time on Friday and Saturday. So sacrifice is big and something that we're pushing, because they need to understand what that word means. What, you know, especially if someone, let's say, for example, a student is passionate about design or going to be a chef or something like that. Well, if they're passionate about it, they should be working on something every single day to get to that level. You know, don't wait till the last minute. So that's something that we're talking about. I just wanted to bring that to attention. So with that said, any questions? Dave?
I got two more quick comments to just sort of like sum it all up. Who likes the 49ers? I know I'm not getting a rant over here from Mr. Borgo over there, but everyone likes the Niners. Everyone knows, I mean, the actual story, right? We like had a quarterback, we had Alex Smith, we moved over to Kaepernick. Alex Smith last year took us one game away from getting to the Super Bowl. Did he get better last year? Or did something change within the team? The communication was better, the mindset was better, the focus was better, the conversations were different. He got inspired and he was allowed to do his thing. The 49ers did great. When Kaepernick got his chance this year, was he ready? Was he ready when he got the call to start the game? Was he ready? Absolutely he was ready. And he was ready because he put himself in a position to be ready. He wasn't going through practice, which is homework, saying, well, you know, I'm the second stringer, I'm not going to get a start. He was ready, so when his time came, he was ready to perform and he was ready to do big things. He was prepared. That's all Franklin's talking about. Whether it's a sports team, whether it's a job, whether it's a work, whether it's school, it's how you prepare, and it's that mindset and that growth mindset. All right? Everyone's been talking about Jim, okay, Harbaugh, and he's a fantastic coach. And he's changed the National Football League. He's got this active running quarterback. He broke the rules and he thought a little bit differently. He's changed the game a little bit. You know, he looked at a situation and he thought about it in a different way. That's what we have to do as a program, as families, as students, is start thinking about the same way. If I keep getting F's on a test and I study the same way, I'm probably going to get the same result. I have to change my way. I have to look at this differently. I'm not a kid who can sit there for 4 hours and study. Maybe I'm a kid who can study for 45 minutes. Then take a break and study for 45 minutes. Then take a break and come back. Maybe I'm a kid who can't study for 4 hours straight. All of this is like a football game. You've got to figure out a strategy to make your child successful, and strategies don't always work with the same kid or even the same family. You might have to change it. You might have to modify it. You know, when he's up here speaking about mindset and growth and talking about partnerships on the school, that's exactly what a football team is. Quarterback's got to know where the wide receiver is going, where the running back is going, what the offensive line is doing. There has to be communication and on the same page. If 4 guys are running to the same side, I can't get the ball to one of those guys. I have to be able to communicate. It's the exact same thing. So I'm just saying that because if you guys are inspired by, you know, football, the 49ers and the turnaround, even the Raiders, right? They were a Super Bowl team a couple years ago and they've sort of faltered. Well, they've lost their communication. They've lost their way of it. You know, can they come back? Absolutely. And how do you do that? You start speaking differently. Start looking at things differently. Start talking differently. Start acting differently, and start communicating. You know, and really take an active role communicating with your schools and your teachers. Please do that because you guys are your biggest advocate for your child. Talk to your schools, talk to your teachers, be a pain in their necks. Oh man, here comes Jonathan Borgo again. He's going to talk to me about Gianna. Be that person, right? Because you got to believe that the other kids in those schools, their families are doing it. You know, that's your job. Be that person. Go and knock down some doors. Go get some answers, right? And I think an excellent point that he made, and it's the last thing I'll say, is that create EPAT at home, right? EPAT is just a place. What is EPAT? We're tools. If you're building a house, you need a hammer and a nail, that's us. We're hammers and nails. We're teaching you how to use these tools. We're teaching your kids how to use these tools. But when they leave this building, it's up to them to use these tools on their own. Recreate this. Hey, Tuesday, you don't come to EPAT, but guess what? If you were at EPAT, you'd be done with dinner at 6:30, and you'd be doing your studying, your tutoring from 6:30 to 8 to 8:30. What would you be doing? Create those habits. Create that environment at home. Right? Just don't let them do whatever they need to do. And oh, it's an EPAT night. We're going to do the, you know. It should be different. It's got to be a consistency. And if we can do that, we're going to win. Right? Because that's what good football teams do. They win because they're consistent. They lose because they're inconsistent. Their play is here one day, their play is here the next day, their practice is here one day, their practices are great. Okay? Coaches in any sport will tell you, we didn't practice well this week, and it showed in our performance on game day.